I worked as a night watchman in a cemetery for 3 years straight. People I tell this to think it's eerie. They ask how I could walk among the gravestones in the dark, whether I was afraid of the shadows, whether I didn't think about what was under my feet. My answer is always the same: no. The dead are the quietest neighbors you can imagine. They don't turn on music at 3 in the morning. They don't park their cars in your spot. They just lie there. For the first 2 years, I believed it. My shift started at 10 at night and lasted until 6 in the morning. The route was the same: the main avenue, the old section with the Victorian gravestones, the chapel, then the new section. I would go around it 4 times a night, writing down the time in a log, making a thermos of coffee, and listening to the radio in a little booth by the gate. Nothing unusual, nothing that would make my heart beat faster. But there was one corner I didn't like. The new sector. I can't quite explain why. They buried those who had died recently, their fresh earth, bright flowers that hadn't yet had time to dry. It would seem that it should be less gloomy than the old area with its mossy crosses and inscriptions that were no longer legible. But no. Something about that fresh earth made me nervous. Something about the fact that it hadn't yet settled, hadn't yet become part of the landscape, as if these places hadn't yet come to terms with their purpose. I tried to walk through it quickly. That night it all started at 2:40. I remember the time exactly, because I had just checked my watch. I had to make a note in the journal. The air was dry and cold, the sky cloudless, the stars sharp as shards of glass. My footsteps on the gravel path were too loud in the silence. Then I heard it. At first I thought it was an animula mole, maybe, or a rat, but the sound repeated itself, and I stopped. It was coming from below, from under the ground. Not from under the path, from under the very grave I had just passed. Slow, wet, sliding, like someone turning in a dream. I took a step back, then another. The beam of my flashlight fell on the fresh ground flat, untouched, exactly as it should have been. But the sound didn't stop, and then the ground moved. Not much, not like an earthquake. Just the surface above the grave rose and fell slightly, like a ribcage breathing. I wasn't breathing. I brought the flashlight closer and I saw it. A palm print. Not a print from the outside. Not a boot or a paw. A palm pressing up from the bottom, pressing into the soil from the inside. I saw 5 fingers. I saw the earth sag slightly between them. The lantern fell from my hand. When I picked it up maybe a second later, maybe 3, there was nothing on the ground. No print, no movement. Just a flat, calm surface, and the stars overhead, and my own breathing hoarse, loud, uneven. I said to myself, fatigue, a hallucination, the play of shadows in the lantern. Then I heard breathing dot from under the ground, slow, wet, alive. I don't remember how I got to the hut. I only remember locking the door with both bolts, pushing the chair back against the wall, and not taking my eyes off the window until morning. I didn't drink coffee. I didn't take notes in my journal. I just sat there staring at the darkness, where the darkness stared back. In the morning, I reviewed the camera footage. Most of it was the usual, nighttime static, empty alleys, still leaves, the occasional cat walking along the fence. I rewound, and almost believed it. Then I got to the 2:43 mark. The camera was looking straight at a new sector. The angle of view was the entire row of fresh graves from the first to the last. And at 2:43, exactly 3 minutes after I heard that sound, the ground moved. Not one grave. All at once, the entire row shook slowly in sync, like a single body flipping over onto its side. I watched that clip 7 times. I zoomed in. I checked the camera settings, maybe a technical glitch, maybe an artifact of the recording. But no, just the ground, just movement. It was just 2:43 a.m., and something beneath it decided to come back. I quit that same day. I wrote in my application of my own free will. I handed in the keys, took the thermos, and never came back. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I think about that breathing, how even it was, how patient, as if what was lying there knew. There was no hurry. It had already waited a long time. It could have waited longer. I took the cemetery job because I needed money. Simple as that. Night shift. 12 hours. Walk the grounds every hour. Check the gates. Make sure no drunk teenagers were knocking over headstones. Easy money. Everyone said. They were right. For the first 3 weeks. The cemetery was old. Most of it, anyway. Graves dating back to the 1800s. Stone crosses cracked and leaning. Names worn smooth by decades of rain. I didn't mind the old section. There was something peaceful about it. Those people had been in the ground long enough that whatever they were just dirt now. It was the new section that bothered me. I couldn't explain it at first. Just a feeling. The kind that starts at the base of your spine and crawls upward. Every time my route took me past those fresh graves, something in my body said, turn around. The soil was darker there. Looser. You could still see where the shovels had broken the earth. The ground not yet settled back into itself. I told myself it was just because they were recent. Someone's father. Someone's child. Grief still fresh in the dirt. I was wrong. It was a Tuesday night in late October when it started. 2:40 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd just checked my phone, annoyed that I still had 4 hours left on my shift. I was walking the path between the new graves when I heard it. A sound. Not from above. Not the wind. Not an animal in the trees. From below. Beneath the ground. Beneath my feet. A slow, shifting sound. Like something adjusting its weight. I stopped. The sound stopped. I stood completely still for 30 seconds. Maybe a minute. Nothing. Just the wind moving through the trees at the far edge of the property. I exhaled. Told myself it was settling earth. Gas pockets in the soil. Completely natural. Completely explainable. I took one step forward. It came again. Slower this time. Deliberate. A long, dragging shift from somewhere underneath the grave to my left. Plot 7. Section D. I know because I checked the records the next morning. Sarah Malone, 53 years old. Buried 11 days prior. I stepped back. The ground moved. Not much. Maybe half an inch. A slow upward pressure. Like something beneath the surface was pushing, testing. The soil cracked slightly along the edges. Thin dark lines spreading outward like a spider's web. My flashlight was already in my hand. I don't remember raising it. I pointed the beam directly at the dirt, and I saw it. A handprint from underneath. 5 fingers pressing upward through the soil. The shape was perfect, clear, like someone had pressed their palm against glass from the other side. The dirt bulged around each finger. It lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then it was gone. I dropped the flashlight. It hit the path, and the beam spun sideways, lighting up the base of a nearby headstone. I stood in the near dark, not breathing, not moving, not thinking. I picked up the flashlight, pointed it back at the grave. The ground was completely still, flat, undisturbed. I stood there for a long time, long enough that the cold started to hurt. I told myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, anxiety, the mind playing tricks in the dark. There was a rational explanation. There was always a rational explanation. Then, I heard the breathing dot from below. Slow, wet, patient, alive. I ran. I'm not ashamed of that. Anyone would have run. I covered the distance to the security office in about 20 seconds, threw open the door, locked it behind me, and stood against the far wall with every light on. I didn't go back outside, not for the rest of the shift. Not when my radio crackled. Not when I thought I heard footsteps on the gravel outside the window. I sat in that chair with the lights blazing until the sky started to go gray, and my replacement knocked on the door at 6 a.m. I told him I wasn't feeling well. I didn't tell him what I'd heard. That morning, I pulled up the security footage. 8 cameras covering the grounds. I went straight to the times. 2:40 a.m. Camera 4, covering section D. Everything looked normal. The path was empty. The graves were still. The trees at the edge of the frame barely moved. I almost closed the footage. Then I noticed the timestamp in the corner. 2:43 a.m. I hadn't imagined the handprint at 2:40. But at 2:43, I was already running. I watched the footage for that 3-minute window again. At exactly 2:43 a.m., the ground in section D moved. Not one grave. All of them. Every patch of dark soil in that section shifted simultaneously, a slow, rolling movement, like something enormous underneath had simply turned over, like it was getting comfortable. The footage lasted 4 seconds. Then the camera glitched, single frame of static. When the picture came back, everything was still. I quit the next morning, didn't give notice, just left my badge on the desk and walked out. I still think about Sarah Malone sometimes. 53 years old, buried 11 days. I wonder if she was the one breathing. I wonder if she was alone down there. Some jobs aren't worth the money. Some things you can't unhear. Some ground should stay unwalked. We buried her, and that same night, she called me. I didn't answer the first time. It was an unknown number, 2:31 a.m. I remember staring at the screen, thinking it was some kind of mistake. Then it rang again and again. On the third call, I picked up. I wish I hadn't. Hello. At first, there was nothing, just static. Then I heard, breathing wet, slow, like someone struggling to pull air through something thick. Then, a voice. It's dark. My stomach dropped. I knew that voice. Emily. We buried her 6 hours earlier. She died in a car accident on Tuesday. By Friday, she was already in the ground, too fast. That's what everyone said, but no one questioned it. At the funeral, people kept whispering the same thing. She looks peaceful, but I saw her before they closed the coffin. She didn't look peaceful. Her face was tense. Her jaw slightly clenched, like she was holding something back, like she wasn't done. I can't breathe, the voice said. I dropped the phone. It hit the floor, but the call didn't end. I could still hear her. Why is it so tight? Then the line cut. I didn't sleep. I just sat there, staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring again. It didn't. The next morning, I went back to the cemetery. I told myself it was stress, shock, my brain trying to cope. But when I got there, something was wrong. Her grave wasn't flat anymore. The soil was uneven, raised slightly in the center, like something underneath had pushed up. I stepped closer, and I saw it, a small indentation in the dirt, from the inside, like fingers pressing up, trying to break through. I called the police. Told them someone might have tampered with the grave. They didn't take it seriously at first, but they came anyway. They dug it up, opened the coffin. It was empty. No body, no signs of animals. Nothing. They asked me if I was sure she was buried there. I didn't answer, because I was thinking about the call that night. At exactly 3:14 a.m., I heard something in my house. A sound from the hallway. Footsteps, slow, wet. I stayed in bed, didn't move, didn't breathe. The steps stopped right outside my door. Then something dragged across it, like a hand, leaving a slow, scraping sound down the wood. And then I heard her, right there, on the other side. You left me there?